all hear me now? Yes, okay. Welcome, Secretary Moray, honorees, guests, and league members. My name is Christine Martone. I am the president of the League of Women Voters from South County, and I'm pleased to be with you at the annual 19th annual Susan B. Wilson Award, Merit Award. Those chosen for these awards are educators who have developed creative ways to teach civics and encourage student participation in democracy. Most importantly, they have helped students understand voting and civic responsibility. We are grateful for their efforts and pleased to honor them, as well as all other educators who work diligently to make civics an important part of their curriculum. These awards are a statewide sponsored endeavor that the League of Women Voters South County chapter has undertaken because of Susan B. Wilson herself. Susan B. Wilson was a longtime league member and educator, and she supported civics education and helped modernize voter engagement efforts. Part of her work included teaching citizens how to use updated voting machines, making elections more accessible as technology changed. We honor her legacy through these awards. I hope that you enjoy this afternoon's program and join us to celebrate the achievements that our awardees have endeavored. Now I'll turn this program over to Kristen Chambers, who's the chairperson of the Susan B. Wilson Committee.
Welcome everyone to this year's Wilson Award ceremony. I'm really glad I'm going to drag Ed out for the first time. Her husband Ed has come out to the Wilson Awards only because she promised him they're going to the skating thing across the road. We've run the gamut of venues in the State House for the Wilson Awards over the years, from the governor's reception room to the bell room, and now for the first time in the State House Library. Very appropriate location for teacher awards. We're once again extremely fortunate that Secretary of State Moray has agreed to be our keynote speaker. East Providence native Greg Moray taught history, civics, and government courses at East Providence High School for 27 years. Elected to the legislature in 2012, he served for 10 years as a state representative in East Providence. During his tenure, he co-sponsored the Civic Literacy Act, which became law in 2021, making civics proficiency a requirement for high school graduates. The League awarded him its Civic Engagement Award for working to pass this law, which helps ensure Rhode Island will have an informed young electorate. In 2022, Greg Moray was elected Rhode Island's 30th Secretary of State. Since then, he has worked nonstop empowering voters, defending democracy, which happens to be the League of Women Voters motto. And I make a point to stick that in here somewhere every year. As a former civics teacher, it's not surprising that Secretary Moray is heavily invested in supporting civics education. Throughout the school year, he visits high schools to stress the importance of civic engagement. I had the privilege of witnessing him in action at Chariho High School a few weeks ago, as he addressed a group of students on Civics Day. It's not often that you see a room full of teenagers off their phones and enthralled by an adult talking about history and civics. But Secretary Moray has the gift, which you'll soon experience. And he has no notes. I have to have this piece of paper glued in front of me. You didn't that day. Secretary Moray initiated the Rhode Island Civic Education Teacher of the Year Award to honor outstanding teachers of civics, social studies, or American government. The award is not mutually exclusive of the Wilson Award, as you will witness today, that this year's winner of the Rhode Island Award is also a Wilson Award winner. With this year's celebration of America's 70th centennial, Secretary Moray is having an especially busy year, with duties as chair of the Rhode Island 250 Commission on top of his office's typical duties. Secretaries of State are charged with the primary mission of overseeing elections. He believes enfranchisement and expanding voting access are a top priority. He travels around the state to speak with residents about how his office ensures that voter rolls are accurate and that Rhode Island elections are fair and secure. The past year has been particularly challenging, as in December, the U.S. Department of Justice sued Secretary Moray and 6 other secretaries of state for refusing to provide the DOJ with the electronic copy of their computerized statewide voter registration lists. Secretary Moray stated, "I denied the Department of Justice's unsubstantiated request for Rhode Islanders' private information because the administration of elections falls under the purview of the states under the United States Constitution. One of my most important responsibilities as the chief state election official is safeguarding the data privacy of Rhode Islanders who entrust us with their personal information when they register to vote. I will continue to fight to protect it." On April 17th, U.S. District Court Judge Mary McElroy sided with Rhode Island election officials and civil rights advocates, writing that federal law does not permit the U.S. DOJ, quote, "to conduct the kind of fishing expedition it seeks here," unquote. Secretary Moray responded to the victory saying, "Today's decision affirms our position. The United States Department of Justice has no legal right to or need for the personally identifiable information in our voter file. Voter list maintenance is a responsibility entrusted to the states, and I remain confident in the steps we take here in Rhode Island to keep our list as accurate as possible. The executive branch seems to have no problem taking actions that are clear constitutional overreaches, regularly meddling in responsibilities that are the rights of the states. But the power of our democratic republic, built on 3 co-equal branches of government, is clearer than ever before. And clearly, Rhode Island voters and elections are in good hands. Please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, the Honorable Greg Moray.
By using my notes today, I have a few quotes that I want to make sure I get right. I want to acknowledge Representative Joe Solomon, who has joined us today, one of my former colleagues in the House of Representatives. And I want to acknowledge the recipients today. Congratulations. I know all 3 recipients. They are nominated and recipients of our awards and outstanding educators. It's an honor to be with you today. So yeah, that was a lot, right? I mean, geez. The entire nation suing you. So we won round 1, but there will be more. And I think people are waking up to what is important around the founding documents and around the separation of powers and federalism, which we don't talk about much, but I know the educators here today do, because it's really foundational to our form of government. So it's been famously said over and over, and I'm sure the teachers in the room have said this, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. And in that vein, and at this ceremony, and recognizing these outstanding educators, it is appropriate in the year of our semi-quincentennial to reflect on the words of the penman of the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson, who believed that the greatest guardrail against tyranny was an educated citizenry. And you know, I think about that, and I think about hearings in the United States Senate and House where members of Congress are disputing the fact that a person has protections under the Bill of Rights, not just a citizen. And that is a complete failure to understand what has been the case since the founding documents were approved. And it's remarkable. Now, you may be able to disagree with that, but you can't disagree with what the plain language of the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights States. And it's disturbing as a history and civics teacher to hear a member of Congress argue that a non-citizen is unprotected under the Bill of Rights. That is beyond my imagination, but I heard it, and I heard it more than once. He said, Jefferson, that through the study of history, people are able to apprise the past, which will enable them to judge the future. He argued that a nation could not be both ignorant and free. And I'm going to quote him here. It is believed that the most effectual means of preventing tyranny would be to illuminate, as far as practical, the minds of the people at large, and more especially, to give them knowledge of those facts which history exhibits, that possessed thereby of the experience of other ages and countries, they may be enabled to know ambition under all its shapes and prompt to exert their natural powers to defeat its purposes. That's powerful, and it is true today. This is in line with his desire to establish a publicly supported education system for all free boys and girls. And that is reflected in his writings continuously. This was not a public education for the aristocracy. This was a public education for all free boys and girls. We'll get back to that. Just as Jefferson suggested, those of us who study and teach history have apprised him and have evaluated the Jefferson paradox, the conflict between the eloquence and the impact of his words and the realities of his life as a slaveholder. The teachers being honored here today know that history's story is complex, and because they know that, their daily practice is informed by what the great scholar, writer, and civil rights leader W.E.B. Du Bois wrote. Nations, Du Bois wrote, reel and stagger on their way. They make hideous mistakes. They commit frightful wrongs, and they do great and beautiful things. America's story is encapsulated in that sentence, and it's imperative that Americans are aware of the entire story of our nation so that we do not repeat the failures of the past. It's also imperative that we as a nation embrace Abraham Lincoln's call for a political religion to be practiced ubiquitously. He said in his now famous Lyceum speech, and the Lyceum speech was in response to what Lincoln called mobocracy, political violence, the brutal lynching of free and enslaved black men and the lynching of abolitionists. He was worried that as the founding fathers started to pass away, that the new generation would not embrace the founding documents. And he said this in the Lyceum address: "Let reverence for the law, for the founding documents, be breathed by every American mother to the lisping babe that prattles on her lap. Let it be taught in schools, in seminaries, and in colleges. Let it be written in primers, spelling books, and almanacs. Let it be preached from the pulpit, proclaimed in legislative halls, and enforced in the courts of justice. And in short, let it become the political religion of a nation. And let the old and the young, the rich and the poor, the grave and the happy, all sexes and tongues, and colors and conditions sacrifice uneasily upon its altars." Wow. He was 28 years old. 28 years old. The outstanding educators being recognized with the Susan B. Wilson Awards today are the preachers of Lincoln's civic religion. They are the guardrails against ignorance that no free nation can endure. And they are the truth tellers, telling the story of the great and beautiful accomplishments alongside the atrocities, the terrible things that nations can and have done. It is the only path forward toward a more perfect union. And our history and social studies teachers are on the front line of the effort that is essential for the success and continuation of the great American experiment. There is a reason that authoritative figures come after the history teachers first. And that is because when you tell the full story of America, it is both troubling and great. But what we know over the long course of history, over these 250 years of America, we have inevitably moved toward being a more perfect union. In 1919, women could not vote. Today, they vote at a greater percentage than men. We had a terrible decision by the United States Supreme Court today that diminishes Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Now, the Supreme Court has made terrible decisions before, but Americans accept those decisions. We accept the decision of the United States Supreme Court because we accept how the system of judicial review works. Now, we know that there was a terrible decision in 1896 in Plessy versus Ferguson that was reversed by Brown v. Board of Education. And we hope that at some point in the near future, this decision is reversed. For protecting the essential voting rights of all Americans is the key because it gives birth to all other rights. I cannot say how grateful I am in enough ways to the educators who are being honored here today and to those who are not, who are equally as deserving. Because this is a hard job in a troubled world, at a time where there are all sorts of distractions. Our students have many issues when they come to us. They're grappling with a lot at that age. The folks in this room, the people being recognized here today, understand that, they do the job, and they do it with all of what I have mentioned in mind. And as an educator, you don't really get to experience the immediate feedback. Your work is incredibly important, but on a day-to-day basis, it might not feel like it, or it might not feel like you're having an impact. But I assure you, as someone who is now out of the classroom and meets adult students all the time, and I know you're doing the same thing, they were listening. They did get it. They do understand it. And some of them have been enlightened by what they learned, and now they are applying that in a real way. Wow. That is an impact that will last for generations. And you know, we don't get paid very much. That's just a fact. But our pay is reflected in those moments. Our pay is reflected in the fact that we know that we have helped a generation of Americans understand what Lincoln called the political religion. So it's an honor for me to be here today to honor you. It's always a great pleasure to be with the League of Women Voters from South County. The work you do is tremendous, and you are on the front lines of preserving and protecting American democracy, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Moray. Our first presenter, Jean Thompson Grove, was born and bred in East Providence. Did you know that?
Allerton Avenue.
And attended Boston College and Harvard Graduate School of Education. As an educator, facilitator, and leadership coach, she lived in the greater Boston area for over 40 years, returned to Rhode Island to reside in Newport in 2019. Before launching her consulting practice, Jean served as Director of Professional Development and Special Initiatives for the Public Schools of Brookline, Mass. She also spent 12 years at Brown University as a clinical professor in education and Senior Associate at the Annenberg Institute for School Reform. A lifelong advocate for civic participation and social justice, Jean serves as Vice President of the Newport Public Education Foundation. Additionally, she serves as a board member of the Martin Luther King Jr. Community Center, Conexión Latina Newport, the Women's Resource Center of Newport County, and the League of Women Voters of Newport County. She is an active member of Renew Newport, serves on the Salve Votes Steering Committee, and is an election worker. Jean brings her years of expertise in leadership, planning, adult learning, and organizational change to the League of Women Voters of Rhode Island Board. She is passionate about helping communities turn shared values into collective action. Outside of her professional work, Jean enjoys boxing, and I had to, what? You see her stand up here and say, watching boxing? Did she actually box? Does she just watch Rocky movies? I don't know. Reading historical fiction and spending time with her siblings, many of whom have also returned to Aquidneck Island. When not in Newport, she cherishes time in Brooklyn with her first grandchild. Jean will be introducing the Wilson Honorable Mention Award winner, Amaris Garcia. Thank you. Secretary of State Amore, awardees, your family and friends and colleagues, and of course my fellow leaguers. Good afternoon. Every once in a while, you need an educator who doesn't just teach civics. They bring democracy to life. They don't just cover the Constitution, they help students see themselves in it. And this afternoon, we have the joy of honoring one of those educators, Amaris Garcia, or Garcia as her friends, her family, and her colleagues, of which you're now one, call her. If you walked into Garcia's classroom at the Trinity Academy for the Performing Arts in Providence, you wouldn't just find desks and lesson plans, you'd find a space alive with questions, voices, stories, and purpose. Working with a student community that is largely multilingual and deeply connected to immigrant experiences, students are connecting who they are, where they come from, and the systems that shape their lives. Because for Garcia, civic education isn't abstract. It's personal, it's urgent, and it's deeply human. Garcia is a fourth-year educator, but the depth and power of her work reflects someone who understands that teaching is not just about delivering content. It's about cultivating citizens. Citizens who can think, who can question, who can listen, who can lead. Her journey from UC Santa Barbara to Barcelona to Brown University has shaped a teaching practice that is both rigorous and deeply responsive. And what she has built is extraordinary, a 3-year interdisciplinary civic learning experience that doesn't just inform students, it transforms them. In her classroom, students don't just study voting rights, immigration, or the civil rights movement as distant history. They explore these issues through their own family stories and community realities. In her Freedom Project, students interview family members about migration, opportunity, and civic systems, and connect those stories to constitutional principles and public policy. They come to understand these systems are not out there. They are right here. They shape our lives every day. And just as importantly, students learn they have a role in shaping them back. Through structured dialogue, evidence-based debate, and real-world analysis, they build not only knowledge, but the habits a democracy depends on. The courage to speak, the discipline to listen, the humility to reflect, and the strength to engage, even in disagreement, with respect. This is not easy work, but it is essential work. What makes Garcia's teaching especially powerful is her commitment to relevance and representation. She ensures that every student can see themselves in the story of our democracy, especially those who are too often left out. Through community partnerships and real-world connections, students encounter voices, perspectives, and possibilities that make learning immediate and meaningful. They don't just study democracy, they experience it. They don't just learn about belonging, they feel it. And in doing so, they begin to see themselves not just as students, but as civic actors, leaders, and contributors. Earlier this year, as Secretary of State Moore referenced, Garcia was named the 2026 Rhode Island Civics Teacher of the Year. Yet she reminds us that her work builds on the work of generations of educators who have made civic learning more inclusive and more just. Garcia isn't just preparing students to pass a test, she's preparing them to participate in the democracy. And right now, I believe that work matters more than ever. So if you will, please join me in celebrating the honorable mention recipient of the Susan B. Wilson League of Women Voters Civic Education Award, Amaris Garcia.
whether you're a credentialed educator by trade, thank you. My name is Amadis Garcia, and I teach 7th and 8th grade ethnic studies at Temple. And I'm very honored and humbled to receive this award from powerful, trailblazing women. I myself come from incredible, strong-willed, powerful trailblazers. And every single one of them has helped shape my character, and they deserve recognition, so I'm about to do it. I have to start with my great-grandma, Mami Isa, who entrusted her daughter with her parents in Mexico to immigrate to this country to earn a living wage and create a sustainable future for her kids. She valued education above all else, despite not having the privilege to attend herself. She worked in a Hunt's tomato factory and did not make much money in relation to other work in the US, but she always donated to people in need. And to this day, no one in my family really knows how she was able to afford supporting her family of 7 and her community. She would eventually go on to remarry, have 4 more daughters, and would bring my grandma to live with her in the United States. Now, my grandma at the time was in high school, and she worked nights in the tomato factory alongside her mom. And they both worked at the station where they boiled tomatoes to remove the skin. And they would pull them out with their bare hands and peel them. And you still see on my grandma's hands the scars and the wear and tear of that work. My grandma learned English once she moved to the United States in the very short years that she attended high school, and is my only grandparent actually to graduate. She could not afford to attend college, but she desperately would have wanted to study business management or accounting and work for the government. My other great-grandma, Nanita, eloped at age 13, married, and had 13 children. Life was extremely hard to her, and she lived through some very extreme experiences. Yet, she's known for her contagious laugh, and always pushed her grandkids and great-grandkids, and I think at one point she had great-great-great-great-grandkids while she was alive, to go to school. Every time we visited, she would ask, how is school, what did you learn? She lived to 100 years old, and was still laughing the day she left us. Her oldest daughter, number 6 of the 13, is my nana. And as the oldest daughter and granddaughter, she went to school until 5th grade. She dropped out to help out at home, making homemade meals over an open flame, hand washing tough Levi's of the men who worked in the fields, and maintaining the house, which we could go into detail about how hard that work is. She immigrated to the US with her brother, raised a family, and also lived through some very extreme circumstances. In my family, she's known for never complaining, always seeing the glass as half full, and for earning the respect of everyone around her in the most humble way. And for the last few years, she battled cancer, but she never spoke about it. You wouldn't have been able to tell, because she was always focused on, okay, so what? I'm still here, I'm still alive. What else could we be doing? How can we push forward? She also had her mother's contagious laugh, and was a beautiful, real, honorable, and humble person who would listen to anything you had to say, and she loved asking about school. What did you learn? And when I became a teacher, she wanted to know, show me what you were teaching. She wanted to go to school so desperately, even at the age of 80-something. Now, the woman who takes the cake is my own mother. And my family lives in California, so, you know, she's with me from far. And despite living through her own extreme obstacles, she attended school to be a teacher. That was a whole journey in itself. She had a lifelong dream to be a teacher. And during the undergrad process, when I was little, and she was pregnant with my sister, she sprained her ankle And she could have asked for, extensions or to have a leave from school or have, bed rest. She had a lot of excuses that she could have made. But she continued attending classes with her belly in front, backpack in the back, crutches going upstairs, and it was. I've seen a picture of it, and it is an image. She took longer than most to finish her undergrad degree, but when she did, I walked with her. And when it was her time to start her career, she gave it up to raise myself and my sister. And we lived humbly on our dad's income, but we had our mom who guided us and modeled every day, all day, to be resilient and fearless. And once I could drive, she did go back, got her master's, and she began her career, and she now teaches middle school Spanish in California and is an inspiring educator. And when I moved from teaching high school to middle school, I was terrified of preteens. Teenagers I can handle. Preteens are a whole other category. I'll leave it at that. But knowing my mom was facing them every day as well made me feel like I could too. And so I come from women with high potential and willpower. But as Mr. Amori said, the easiest way to, summarizing here, the easiest way to control a population is to leave them uneducated. And so my family, the women in my life lack the privilege and resources to reach their most ambitious dreams. Lack of education, lack of opportunities. But their sacrifices and teachings have enabled me to reach my own potential. And I believe that the most valuable lessons in life are not necessarily the ones written on paper, but those modeled by the humans that have positively impacted our lives. In a world of plenty of examples of what not to do, I say thank you to the women in my life and the people in this room for modeling what to do. And so this award is meant for all of you, in my eyes, because at the end of the day, participating in today's very complex world and to practice civics means to have hope, to have the skills to work together to identify the inequities, to advocate for the people who are less educated, do not have as much of a voice, to have the creativity to create unconventional solutions, and lastly, to have the courage to be trailblazers. It is my privilege and honor to accept this on behalf of all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice Garcia. Our next introducer is Teresa Schimmel. Terry's interest in world affairs began in early childhood as she sat in her father's lap while he read the newspaper aloud to her. She also clearly remembers both her parents going to vote and emphasizing the importance of doing so. Terry earned bachelor's and master's degrees in elementary and special education, which allowed her to pursue a career in teaching. She taught in a special education classroom in Pensacola, Florida, where she was awarded Teacher of the Year. After becoming a mother, she saw a need for a community preschool, so she became certified in early childhood education in order to start one and direct a preschool in her hometown. After moving to Rhode Island, Terry was a classroom teacher for 21 years in the Chariho School District, where she developed an inclusion program for preschool children, which was one of the first in the state. Terry moved from classroom teaching to becoming an early childhood consultant, eventually working for the National Association for the Education of Young Children. In that role, she traveled throughout the country assessing early childhood sites. Terry has been involved in multiple civic activities. She started an advocate group for the passage of the South Kingstown school budget. As a passionate advocate for peace, she chaired the Peace and Justice Committees of 2 faith communities, spearheading local interfaith peace events. She's an active member of the General Federation of Women's Clubs and as chairperson of the Spirit of Giving essay contest, worked with the committee to judge hundreds of essays written by sixth grade students, which I'm sure was very valuable for this Wilson Award preparation. As chairperson of the club's Legislative Action Committee, she helped to educate and advocate for positions held by the national organization, addressing issues like domestic violence, voter registration, immigration, and gun safety legislation. During her tenure as chairperson, the committee earned 2 national awards. Terry is an active member of Moms Demand Action for Gun Safety, which is how the two of us met, and she has frequently been to the State House to support and testify for gun safety legislation. With a passion for writing, Terry has authored 4 children's books, 2 adult books, and 1 soon-to-be-released young adult book. Her book, David's War, David's Peace, is used in classrooms in Rhode Island to teach children about conflict resolution. Terry will be introducing the Wilson Jury Prize winner, Robert Petrucci.
Thank you very much. First, I must apologize for my phone. I'm not a tech person. I couldn't figure out how to turn it off. So, I am very, very honored to be the introductee to a wonderful person. I read his biography and I thought, how can I summarize this biography? This has so much content here. Mr. Robert Petrucci has dedicated his whole career to civic education. For more than a decade, he participated in Brown University's Choices program, including Rhode Island's Capital Forum on America's Future, a statewide and national civic engagement initiative that brought students to the State House for immersive learning experiences. Students participated in breakout sessions and culminating forums in House chambers, engaging directly with state and federal dignitaries, as well as other public officials. So building on this experience, Mr. Petrucci co-developed an authentic experiential program for all 9th graders at East Greenwich High School, including those with diverse needs. The program began as a 2-week model and has now evolved into a full semester to develop informed and responsible citizens of our country. Entitled American Democracy in a Global Economy, it is a replicable model of authentic civic education. Student experiences include analyzing voter data, researching officials, preparing questions, and engaging directly with elected officials through forums, mock elections, and campaigns. In partnership with the East Greenwich Board of Canvassers, students participate in a mock election. They do everything from serving as poll workers to designing materials to running full-fledged campaigns. Post-election, they participate in the assessment of the learning outcomes. Over the past several years, students have engaged directly with a wide range of public officials at the local, state, and federal level. Mr. Petrucci has developed the curriculum to incorporate simulations such as the Supreme Court, legislative bill writing, and government role play, as well as projects on historical reformers and social issues. Students have also been afforded the opportunity to attend related experiential events such as SUFs, a theater event, to deepen their understanding of voting history and civic responsibility. I had the pleasure of reading many, many applications submitted to the League of Women Voters. It was uplifting and rewarding, not to mention a lot of work, to see so many of our Rhode Island educators encouraging critical thinking, sharing key historical knowledge about the political process and voting, and emphasizing civic responsibility. I think it's needed now more than ever. The curriculum developed by Robert Petrucci is exemplary in promoting active citizenship and civic literacy. It is a model I would love to see replicated in every district of our state and in every state in our country. I would like to thank him, Mr. Robert Petrucci, for all you do to create engaged and informed citizens, and it is my pleasure to award you the Jury Prize from the League of Women Voters.
Good afternoon. I am deeply grateful to be a recipient of the 2026 Susan B. Wilson Civic Education Award. I'd like to thank the folks here with me, the League of Women Voters, South County for this honor, and Secretary Amore and the Rhode Island State House for hosting the ceremony. Our world is constantly changing and expanding. So are the lives of our students. Never before have young people been exposed to so much, so quickly. As educators, we face a real challenge. How do we help students understand civic rights and responsibilities when their immediate communities can feel so small compared to the vast world they experience on their screens? For us, the answer can be powerful. Start close to home. Introduce them to the people, institutions, and opportunities right in their own community. As Dorothy reminds us in The Wizard of Oz, if I ever go looking for my heart's desire again, I won't look any further than my own backyard. Students are generally fascinated when they begin to see how their local community and our state fit into the larger national and global picture. For me, teaching civics has always been about expanding the walls of the classroom and the building itself to make real connections beyond it. At East Greenwich High School, we've been running mock elections for president and governor since 2000. In fact, we use voting booths that we purchased from the state of Mississippi. They were damaged in a mudslide. We bought them, cleaned them up, and have been using them ever since. They look just like the ones we use here in Rhode Island, and over time, we've strengthened this project through partnerships with the Secretary of State's office and the East Greenwich Board of Campuses for an authentic voting process for students. This year, and actually the last couple of years, our 9th grade students, they vote for class councils with actual voting machines from the state. They come in and they go through the entire process, running their campaigns and talking amongst their peers. All 9th graders are trained in the process. And this hands-on civic participation has inspired our students to serve as poll workers in their community. After 27 years in education, there is so much to be thankful for. And this award truly belongs to many, and I'm honored to share it with them. I'm really grateful. I'm grateful for the town of East Greenwich, our central office, school committee, town council, and the board of campuses for their continued support and willingness to help us provide meaningful, real-world experiences. It really starts with Raymond Pouliot. He was my department head. He gave me my start, and he advocated for my hiring. I promised him I would work every day to make him proud, and I've tried to live up to that promise. Our school leadership, Dr. Pat Page, Principal, Vice Principal Tim McPartland, Department Chair Terry Garno, I'd like to thank them for their unwavering support and willingness to embrace new ideas, whether it's elections, student forums, guest speakers, developing new courses. They don't know this yet, but I plan on building a courtroom pretty soon. So it's truly been an incredible journey. To our media specialist, Michelle Stever, I'd like to thank her for the tools and the resources and the space that help our students thrive. My colleagues at East Greenwich High School, especially the Social Studies Department, Karen, Joe, Sean, Maddie, Jen, Andy, and Christine, they are extraordinary educators and even better teammates. The support we give one another is what makes our work meaningful and sustainable. Beyond the school, no one can do this without the support of their family. My mom, who's here today, never misses an opportunity to ask about students. At the start of every school year, she wishes me and them a great year. And she does that throughout the year. My mother-in-law, Mary, her brothers, Harry and Steve, they've encouraged me, they've inspired me, they've supported me. And they really were the driving force, along with my wife, Wendy, of the development of the course 20th Century Genocide, which I hope has made a meaningful impact. My daughter, Alex, has shown incredible understanding and perspective. When I once considered stepping back from coaching softball to work with her team, she said, "Dad, I think the girls at your school need you more than I do." I'm not sure if there was a hidden message there, but I did take it to heart. And finally, to my wife, 32 years. When I was in college, I told her I wanted to be a teacher, and I said, hey, if I do this, I'm all in. Coaching, teaching, advising. And she said, without hesitation, I know, that's who you are. And she stood by me ever since. She often jokes that she's a high school widow from late August through June. She's probably right. But her support has never wavered. Through the late nights, long weeks, countless school events, she's been my rock. Her support is extraordinary, and I love her more every day. As I close my remarks, I'd like to mention two very important men in my life I've lost recently. My father-in-law Dale and my father Bobby. Both gave selflessly throughout their lives, and I will honor that sentiment all the days I've left. My dad always told me, leave things better than you find them. Something I've consistently tried to do, especially with the youth of East Greenwich High School, South Kingstown, and really the state and our school. It takes a family to work in education, and I hope I've given you a glimpse of what stands behind one teacher's journey. Thank you.
Coming here every year really makes me want to be a student again with teachers like this. Our next presenter is Christopher Stanley. Chris has built a distinguished career in education, serving for over 2 decades as a social studies teacher at Pontiac High School in North Situate. Earlier, he taught at Our Lady of Fatima High School, and later served as chair of its executive board. In addition to his classroom work, he has coached mock trial and advised senior classes. Chris's dedication to teaching has earned him significant recognition. In 2016, he was named Rhode Island History Teacher of the Year by the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History, followed by a Teach Plus Policy Fellowship in 2017. In 2018, the Organization of American Historians awarded him with the Mary K. Bonesteel Tachow National Teacher of the Year Award for his contributions to history education. He also received both the Martha Ross Teaching Award and Gilder Lehrman Institute Rhode Island Teacher of the Year Award for documenting the stories of local Vietnam veterans. In 2022, he was awarded a fellowship from the James Madison Memorial Foundation for his work advancing constitutional education. Beyond the classroom, Chris has a long record of public service and political involvement. He served the town of Warren as a member of the Central Fire Company for over 30 years, rising to the rank of captain, and spent nearly 2 decades on the Warren Town Council, including leadership roles as president and vice president. In 2000, he ran a respectable statewide campaign for Secretary of State and served as a delegate to the Republican National Convention, supporting Senator John McCain, with continued roles as a delegate and alternate in subsequent elections. He currently serves as Secretary-Treasurer of the Bristol County Water Authority and lives in Warren with his wife Bethany and their daughter Reagan. Now that's as far as his information went. But I don't know if it was out of modesty or because he's received so many recognitions that a few slipped his mind. But Chris neglected to note that in 2023, he received the Susan B. Wilson Jury Prize. Evaluators were impressed by his multidisciplinary project titled Where the Rivers Meet, in which students learned about the history of the Nipmuc, who not only occupied parts of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, but lived on the very land on which Pontiac High School sits. The evaluator who introduced Chris at the 2023 awards ceremony stated that Chris's innovative projects over the years prove he is an educator who prioritizes experiential learning in settings outside of the traditional classroom. As a result of this work, students demonstrated a better understanding of civics and how individuals and groups exercise or are denied their rights and responsibilities by taking active part in creating a decision-making experience of the larger community and responding to the community's needs. I myself was so impressed by Chris's work that he has since been on my short list of winners to invite back as an evaluator of the Wilson Awards. Chris will be introducing the 2026 Wilson Award Grand Prize winner, Crystal Bozikian. Chris.
You made me sound real bad. All the kids at school, they're mediocre at best. So, good afternoon. I'll start with the off-the-cuff remarks, and then I'll get to my written remarks. So we're here, and if we listen to everybody's story, there's a theme. And that theme is personalizing education for the kids that are in front of them. That is so key and crucial. It's so difficult to keep their attention today. You know, I feel like every day I go into that classroom, I have to be a rock star. Beyond, I can spin quarters, juggle fire, and they still look at me like, what else you got? So occasionally I do some nutty things, and I may fly over some bands, and I try to bring that history to life. And each of the educators today do that. And then there's the support network. It reminds me of my own family, right? Where's Dad? Dad's at school. Where's your father? He's at school. Those same conversations, I imagine, go on in your homes as well. Because we're truly, truly dedicated to those kids that are in front of us. And we try to bring that history, particularly, which can be a dull and drab subject for, I think, for most kids, right? They'd rather have chemistry class where they're blowing stuff up, having great experiments. But they're reading primary sources, and they're getting engaged. And we find hooks as ways to get them. And I'm so appreciative of all those stories, those themes that constantly, I think, filter throughout up here every time that I've come. I was a recipient myself and tonight. So it's absolutely a privilege to stand before you and introduce this year's Grand Prize winner. Educator whose work does not simply teach civics, but it puts flesh and blood. It brings it to life. She makes democracy alive. Crystal Boisigan of North Providence High School. For 19 years, Crystal has dedicated herself to the students of North Providence. Now here's where it gets good, not just as a teacher, but as a mentor, a leader, a proud alumna who once walked the very same halls as the students she now inspires. For her early days as a graduate of the class of 2003, to her role today as a history department chair, her journey reflects a deep and enduring commitment for her community. Her academic path, earning degrees from Providence College, Arizona State University, and later a master's in educational leadership, speaks to her passion for learning. But what truly sets Crystal apart is how she transforms that knowledge into meaningful, lasting experiences for her students. Whether she's teaching her innovative Hollywood history course, coaching a varsity swim team, advising programs like mock trial or Project Close-Up, she meets students where they are and challenges them to think critically about the world around them. And nowhere is that more of an impact in the Student Government Day activities, her program, which she leads. This is not a typical classroom lesson. Under Crystal's guidance, over 500 students each year don't just learn about democracy, they practice it. They run for office, appear on official ballots, cast their ballots using real voting machines provided by the Secretary of State. For many, it's their very first experience with the voting process, one that replaces uncertainty with confidence and transforms hesitation into participation. And that is a key and crucial part of that program. Because kids today lack confidence. They're too busy texting. But a program like this allows them to see a wider view, a wider world, and they become engrossed. She doesn't stop with that either. No, she builds a bridge between school and community, partnering with local and state leaders. Ready for it? Including Mayor Charles Lombardi. The fact that she can wrangle him and get him involved in the program, that is worthy of the award itself. She creates a 2-day immersive experience where governments become real. Students step in roles as legislators, council members, judges, and public safety officials. They debate policy, make decisions, confront complexities of leadership. They do the real things of government. They stand at podiums, press voting buttons, and speak not just with their voices, but with their conviction. There it is again, their conviction, that personalization. In those moments, something powerful happens. Students begin to understand democracy, not in an abstract way. It's not distant, it becomes theirs. Crystal's program also recognizes that civil engagement extends beyond elected office by incorporating voices from media, reminding students of a role as the fourth branch of government. She ensures that they leave not only as future voters, but as informed citizens capable of navigating an increasingly complex world. What makes this work truly exceptional is its reach and its relevance, its personalization. It connects national ideas to local realities. It aligns with students' career aspirations. It fosters collaboration between schools, government, community, and the students themselves. Perhaps most importantly, it instills a sense of responsibility, showing students that their voices truly matter, that leadership begins now, not someday, today. Crystal is more than an educator. She's a builder of civic confidence, a champion of student voice, and a model of what it means to prepare the next generation, not just to understand democracy, but to sustain it. It's with great admiration and gratitude that we honor her tonight. Please join me in celebrating Crystal as the grand prize winner.
Well, thank you everyone for being here today. I'll do my best to keep it brief, but that's not usually in my nature, so here we go. So good afternoon. Thank you to Secretary Mori and the other dignitaries, elected officials, and members from the League of Women Voters, Suffolk County, for being here today. Congratulations to the other honorees. Welcome to our families, friends, and guests in attendance today at this beautiful and, as already mentioned, but appropriate venue for educators. I am honored to be one of the recipients of the Susan B. Wilson Civic Education Merit Awards, especially as we approach America's 250th anniversary, a milestone that brings both celebration and reflection. I want to first thank the League of Women Voters and the evaluators for this incredible recognition. I truly appreciate the acknowledgement and all the kind words that everyone here tonight has spoken about all of us. Many of these words tonight were about me, an individual, but I also believe that I am the person and educator I am because of so many others who have shaped me along the way. My family, my parents who are here today in attendance, my siblings, my friends, my colleagues, students now and of the past, and the entire North Providence community are these foundational cornerstones. I thank each of you for also being here tonight to share in this award. As educators, our job is to prepare the next generation with the skills necessary to be productive members of society. I tell my students that democracy is not a spectator sport. We must get off the sidelines and onto the playing field, or the swimming pool, because I'm also the swim coach. They must understand their role to be informed, responsible, and actively engaged citizens. Many students will say that they do not like history and politics. My reply: you don't have to be the next president or the next mayor or even a politician to make a difference, but you do have to be a kind person, a good citizen, and give back to your community. Therefore, what I enjoy most is giving students experiences beyond the classroom through North Providence's very own Student Government Day Activities program, where our students are elected to public office by their peers and shadow our local and state officials through a partnership with our mayor and town offices. I grew up in North Providence. I graduated from North Providence High School, participated in this program 40 plus years, this program and its 40 plus year tradition as a student. I'm now honored to lead the Student Government Day program and see it grow. The program continues to grow with new offices participating each year, various guest speakers that we invite, and for the past 3 years, we have worked with the Secretary of State's office to add a voter registration drive to our event and this year alone, we registered over 60 new voters to our state voter registration. Our entire junior and senior cohort of students cast their vote using voting machines on loan from the state's Board of Elections. I might have to look into muddy machines for us to house. But it's in order to become familiar with our state's voting process, which I find so important. This in-school vote simulates the privilege we all have once these students turn 18. What may seem like a simple simulation is one that gives students practice and the confidence to vote when their turn really comes. I firmly believe this practice removes any apprehension students may have about going to the polls when their first eligible election occurs. After the votes are counted and once students are elected, the Student Government Day program gives over 50 students the opportunity to meet the adults in our town and state who make the important decisions and see firsthand what makes North Providence such a great community in which we live. Most importantly, it gives us adults the opportunity to hear from our students in regards to what they think about various topics as they share their opinions throughout the event at mock school committee meetings, mock town council meetings where students role play various scenarios and discuss real issues that affect our school and town. Students elected to the state positions, they travel here to the State House to conduct a mock House session, deliberating student-authored bills on the House floor using our General Assembly's desk to cast their votes on each bill. Student Government Day activities are a wonderful way for students to observe our town and state in action, but that wasn't enough for me. Since 2011, I have worked with Project Close-Up in Washington, D.C., an organization that for 1 week hosts students from all over the country in blended cohorts where political ideologies and opinions often clash. Yet these differences are handled with respectful dialogue, demonstrating it is possible. Students gain a close-up look at our nation's history and democracy in action. This program empowers students to engage in rich civic discourse with their peers from around the country and during meetings with our Rhode Island state senators and representative on Capitol Hill. It is these civic programs offered at North Providence High School that I am most proud to be a part of as an educator. I thank my school and district administration, my superintendent and principal who are here today, for allowing me these opportunities to lead. By affording our students these experiences beyond the school's four walls, they are able to gain the confidence to voice their opinions, share their ideas with others, and witness our democracy in action at the local, state, and even national level. Our students are our future, and I am honored to lead and learn with my students daily in the classroom and throughout our community at large. Our founding fathers believed that democracy depends not just on institutions, but on informed, engaged citizens. They understand that self-government is not guaranteed. It is something we learn, practice, and must bestow upon others. Civic education at its best accepts this charge to help each new generation understand not only their rights, but their role and responsibility in shaping a more just and great nation. As we mark 250 years, I'm reminded that the great American experiment is still unfolding. It is all of us, especially the young people that we teach, who will continue to preserve the ideals set forth by our founding fathers of life, liberty, and each of our own personal, yet also collective American pursuit of happiness. I want to congratulate the other award recipients. Thank you all again for this wonderful honor and for the shared work we do in strengthening our democracy together. Thank you.
I think we've been all inspired today by our honorees, and I congratulate them all. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, and I'd especially like to thank Secretary Amori for giving us his speech, which is always excellent, and you can tell that the Secretary of State's office works with everyone to promote democracy, which is, again, as Kristen said, our motto. And also, I have to mention that Secretary, you got second notice to Ed Rossmondo today, so. But, that's okay. So anyway, I want just to tell you all that there is a QR code here that I have, and you also have in your programs we'd like you to give us some feedback on the program today. It's always helpful to learn more about what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. I have some pens down here after I'm all done. I'd like to thank now our judges, Kristen and Nancy McLean, the Susan B. Wilson team, and the League of Women Voters Rhode Island Board. But most importantly, I'd like to thank the Rhode Island League of Women Voters Education Fund. Without them, we would not be here today. So I thank them all, and I thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.